right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to discuss, is Brock Purdy a system quarterback or not? Now, obviously, this is kind of a topic that's been discussed, across, all forms of media, like wherever you look. And, you know, I could see why people believe, one side or the other. For me, it's kind of tough to determine it just because, you see what Brock Purdy can do and you're like, hey, that's not something a system quarterback can do and things like that because he's accurate with the ball. I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. But you look at but then again, you could look at who he's surrounded by, and who's his head coach, and you could say, well, he's a system quarterback. And obviously this topic has come to the forefront just because the 49ers just lost to the Cleveland Browns, who were starting a backup quarterback. And again, like I said, I could see both sides of it. For me, though, like when you look at the system, when you talk about what a system quarterback is, you got to surround your quarterback with talent. I mean, like, and you see, and I thought about this right before I came on, and again, like, they don't have nearly the system that the 49ers have. But you look at the Bears, right? They go and they trade for DJ Moore. Now, they had a good game. Now, Justin Fields had a good game against Washington. But outside of that, like, and the game against the Broncos, he wasn't doing good. Like, you surround him with talent, and he wasn't doing good before he got hurt against the Vikings. So, like, what does that show about the quarterback for the Bears? Like, Brock Purdy, you surround him with all these weapons, and he's playing really well. But again, like, I mean, the Bears they don't have nearly the team that the 49ers do. But, like, they have given Justin Fields, a top wide receiver to be successful with, and he really hasn't delivered so far. Now he's hurt, and who knows what's going to happen with that. But for me, though, like, if McCaffrey and Debo don't play against the Vikings, we'll see what Brock Purdy can do without those two guys. I mean, you still got Kittle and you still got Ayuk, but, and even if Trent Williams doesn't play, which I think they all have good chances to play. I saw that, so that's positive news there. But in the event they don't play, I mean, we'll see what happens. Like, what can Brock Purdy do without those guys? And for me, the other thing too is I feel like he's doing things with that offense that, like, Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, like, couldn't do. He's like in the 15 games that he's played so far with the Niners, he's got 23 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He threw his first pick on Sunday. Doesn't turn the ball over. Passer rating, again, like, hasn't over the course of a full season. It's 15 games, but he's got a 109.6 passer rating. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo. In all of his games with the Niners, he's got a 99.2. His touchdown to interception ratio, it's 82-42. So yeah, he's throwing a lot of picks. Yards per game, he was averaging 238.6. Brock Purdy is averaging, let's go back to his numbers. His yards per game, well, it's lower than Garoppolo's, but this year he's averaging 232.7. So it's a little bit lower than Garoppolo. So Garoppolo's got him there, but I think the important thing is he's not turning the ball over. Now he did do it on Sunday, but Garoppolo turned the ball over a lot. I don't know. For me, I just feel like he's operating the offense better than what Garoppolo was doing. Now, he didn't play his best game on Sunday. He did put them in a position to win. He got them in field goal range, and that's something that, if you want to be considered, an elite quarterback, that's where you got to be money is, getting, on the road in a hostile environment against good defense, get your team in field goal range to get a game-winning field goal. And, they had the chance to do that. It just didn't, it didn't happen. And this was with the injuries. They ended up missing the field goal. So, yeah, I mean, it's, and again, I understand why people think that he is. I mean, he is in the perfect system. And the 49ers getting Christian McCaffrey was a great move for them. So, I mean, if he misses time, we'll see, like, what Brock Purdy can do without him. But, I mean, even if he is considered a system quarterback, you're supposed to surround your quarterback with talent. Now, I don't look at Brock Purdy as an elite quarterback. Like, by no means do I think he is that. I don't think he has the best arm. But I think he is a solid quarterback. And I think when you don't turn the ball over, I think that also has got to count for something. Because Garoppolo did turn the ball over. I mean, we never really got to see what Trey Lance could do with that offense, just because he got hurt. But, I just think I think Brock Purdy is doing things with that offense that, the last couple of 49ers quarterbacks just couldn't do. So, and I just think it's too soon to tell. I mean, I feel like it's very easy to say it, especially after coming off of a loss against the Browns. But, who had a backup quarterback. But, let's see what he does, against the Eagles on the road. And let's see. And listen, he did well in the playoffs. Did very well against the Seahawks in the wild card round. He had some nice plays, of course, in the Cowboys game, even though that was a low-scoring game. We didn't really get to see what he could do against the Eagles because he got hurt. So for me, like, I don't want to say like yes or no. I think it's really like too soon to tell because, I mean, the guy's only played 15 games. But you see things where you're like, maybe he isn't. And again, it's easy to say yes. It's easier to say yes after a loss where the offense didn't look good. I mean, like, yeah, you'd probably be like, well, let's see what he's like without McCaffrey, without Debo, without all these weapons, and without Kyle Shanahan. Like, what is he? And you know what? Yeah. He was the last pick in the draft. But you know what? I would say for a guy that was the last pick in the draft, he's doing pretty well for a system quarterback. Because, like, there's been a lot of quarterbacks that have been drafted, in later rounds. Like, you put all those guys in that situation, like, are they going to do the same thing? You don't know that. Maybe the 49ers saw something in Purdy to take him, and look at what he's done. They got to the NFC Championship game with him. They maybe could have won it if he didn't get hurt. And they're tied for the best record in the NFC. And this doesn't make you a system quarterback or not, but the other thing, too, is those other two quarterbacks that they've had, Garoppolo's gotten hurt, still getting hurt. And, you hope he's okay and he's ready to play on, I don't know if he is going to be ready or not to play on Sunday. But, he was always getting hurt. Trey Lance got hurt. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's what happens. So, Brock Purdy got hurt because of a freak thing. I mean, his arm got hit. And that's why he had to, get surgery. And, thankfully he was able to come back and bounce back from that injury. But, he's played in every game so far. Again, small sample size, but the other two guys were always getting hurt. And I think that might have had to factor in as to why, the 49ers maybe moved off of Trey Lance. But I mean, listen, I really don't think you could take any guy and just throw him into this system surrounded by all these weapons and it's like go out there and be elite. You know? I mean, obviously, like Josh Johnson got thrown into the fire in the championship game, but what did he do? He didn't do anything, and then he got hurt. You know, so they believe in Brock Purdy, and you could say he's a system quarterback, but he was the last pick in the draft. And yeah, I mean, if he's on like the Giants or if he's like on the Bears or the Patriots, yeah, he probably you probably don't even hear about him. But what he's been able to do so far, all he does is win, except for Sunday. You know, the 49ers offense, I think, has looked the best that it ever has with him. And, well, like, you know, going back to in the Garoppolo era, you know. Because obviously, I mean, you know, the Niners with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, I mean, those offenses were very good too. Those 49ers teams were some of the best teams that I've ever seen in my lifetime, you know. But I'm just talking about like strictly from the Garoppolo era. And I'm not going to compare it to, you know, the Montana era either. But, you know, but I mean, these 49ers teams, they're very good. And they have a lot of talent. And they're a well-run organization. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a discussion that's going to continue to be had. And, you know, obviously for me, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, he definitely is or he definitely isn't. Because I can definitely see both sides. I see a guy that can make good throws. But I also see a guy that's surrounded by a ton of talent. And if he doesn't have that talent, what is he then? You know, so I don't want to say, because a system quarterback to me just, you know, like minimizes what you're doing. That just labels you as a guy that, yeah, you're only good because of what you have. Now, again, he does benefit from having all of these weapons, but he's also got to make the throws and get them the ball. Again, you go back to the championship game. You take him out, nobody really did anything after that. So, you know, I think it's too soon to tell, but again, I can understand why people believe one way or the other. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, now they're coming off of a loss, and if they don't have their full array of weapons on Monday when they play the Vikings, like, let's see what he does. You know, like, obviously you want to see McCaffrey out there, you want to see Debo out there, but if they're not out there, then let's see what Brock Purdy's made of. You know? So, but let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that Brock Purdy is a system quarterback or not? Obviously, again, this is going to be a discussion that's going to continue to be had. I mean, we're going to be hearing more and more about it. But I think for me, once again, like, I'm not going to sit here and say Brock Purdy is like an elite quarterback. You know, like a Mahomes or an Allen, a Burrow. But you know what? I think he's a solid quarterback. And, you know, I think he's a guy that can win games, you know. So that's basically it when talking about this topic. So we're going to move on to, you know, speaking of quarterbacks, you know, we're going to move on to a team that's had quarterback trouble, but actually finds themselves at 3-3 on the season heading into the bye week. And they're kind of feeling good about themselves. And they actually held some of the most elite quarterbacks down and embarrassed them, as the head coach said. So when we get back from our second break of the show, we're going to talk about the Jets and their playoff chances, whether I think they will make the playoffs or not. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.